What is the craziest thing you have witnessed while in college? Possibly NSFW. Freshman year of college. Made friends with a small guy, 5 feet 3 inches, of Latino descent. He lived in the dorm room next to me. Very laid back. Very intelligent. Loved to smoke weed. Said he had dealt a while back, but was out of the game. One day, after a long day of classes, I hopped into the elevator to go to my floor. I was the only one in there as the doors started to close. Then, a black glove appeared at the last second and held the elevator open. Before I knew it, I was surrounded by large rifles and men in SWAT gear. They calmly filed in, squishing me in the middle. I think I remember there being 5 or 6. So, at what floor do you guys need? 6th floor. My floor. Oh, that's where I'm going to. Good. Alright kid. When we say go, you're going to be the point man. Meanwhile, 3rd floor. 4th floor. Wait, what? What do you mean I'm It was a joke, kid. But seriously, get the duck out of the way when we get there. We get to the 6th floor, and they run all the way down. Kick the door open. Arrest the kid. What did they find? 5 pounds of weed, $10,000 and away $2,500. All in a college dorm room from an unsuspecting friend. TLDR. SWAT team elevator. Edit. Fixed to show away. Thanks, Euraxius. At a fraternity party there was an old alumni around 60 years old doing a keg stand. 2 girls came up to him and asked if he wanted to motorboat them. He smiled and said, "Sorry to disappoint ladies, but I'm married." Flashed his ring and disappeared into the night. Classy mother ducker. 1 kg of sodium. Into the river. Walked into a theater party to see a girl, butt naked, do a line of coke off a guy's D. I'm dead serious. You can't make this it up. I went to a small Christian college and I once witnessed a kid who forgot to pray before eating his meal in the cafeteria. He was so embarrassed, but after giving him a hard time we all laughed it off. It was insane. We have this preacher who regularly comes on campus to condemn people to hell. One day, 2 girls decided to strip and run at the old man. It was hilarious. They the 2 got arrested and had to sit in the grass, naked and handcuffed. Kinky it. I once visited my friend at university for the weekend during Halloween a few years ago. It was late at night and I was walking back to this girl's room. As we walked by the common area I saw Batman giving it to Sailor Moon from behind, both of them still in full costume, masks and all. Some guy ducking a girl in the ass in the kitchen of the apartment opposite ours, with the lights on and in clear view of about 100 people. I mean, I've seen every drug imaginable consumed. Been to a naked party, people boning in the corner of parties, the usual. But my craziest experience probably has to be being in the middle of a riot caused by a basketball win that put us in the Elite 8. My school is known for celebrating by burning couches, but this took it a step further. There was a large fire in the middle of the road with drunk people everywhere throwing stuff into it. I was standing on a car, the only place to stand. Every car on the block was being stood on. When someone started chanting "flip the car," I immediately got off as a couple dozen people flipped the Sunfire and rolled it into the fire. At this point the girl whose car it was came out and screamed, "That's my car." To which the crowd started chanting, "That's my car. That's my car." A fire truck eventually came but the road was blocked so it had to spray its hose as far as it could, barely reaching the car and soaking everyone there. After that riot police came in and pepper sprayed everyone. This was 7 years ago, but as of last week, this stuff is still going on at my alma mater every time we have a big win. 40 fires set just this past weekend. Edit. Video. Car in fire at 3:50. I had a friend who would casually call his grandmother to pick him up from parties, but she would end up staying there for about 45 minutes getting drunk and making friends. I also bought weed from a place called Fat Mama's who served all-you-can-eat chicken and fries. My dorm room was the type where there was 2 rooms that connected and shared a bathroom. My suite mate was banging a girl late at night in the bathroom. I could hear everything. He says to the girl, "The code word for when I'm about to blow is Jumanji." 5 minutes later I hear him screaming like it's 1995 again. Jumanji I. Jumanji I. From the on out, I've lost endless hours of sleep from the word Jumanji. I once saw a 65-year-old biology professor do a keg stand. Methodicking tenure. Underage at a bar. Turn around and a girl woman whips out a tit. Squeezes and lactates about 10 feet across the bar. I didn't realize how ducked up that was till hours later. So 3 things I witnessed at this party last year kinda blew my mind. This was a huge party. There was probably about 300-400 people between the people inside and the people outside. As usual, everyone is trying to cram into the garage for the DJ, and this is a 3-door garage basement combo. It is completely packed inside, flowing out a good 30 feet into their driveway, all full of people shoulder to shoulder trying to get in. I knew the kids who lived there, and was let in through the front. Yada yada. About 1 hour later my friend tells one of the house owners, "Yo man, you gotta come to the basement. This girl is just blowing this guy in the corner." We just sat there and said what? The house owners and company forced their way downstairs and lo and behold this girl is straight up blowing this kid in the corner of the dance floor. We didn't want to stop her because we were afraid the kid might blow his load at any minute. So we let it continue, said duck it, and went back upstairs. Same party. It gets broken up around 12 by the police. In helping clear out the party I discovered a couple having sex in a tree. Literally in a tree. Told them to finish up and get out. Also I watched this kid, probably 6 feet 8, 250 pounds, rip a tree about 4 feet tall out of the ground and carry it home. Yeah, college. I walked into the bathroom at a random party to find 2 naked guys in the shower pouring orange juice on themselves while a girl watched and laughed. About a week later I met all 3 while I was out at dinner with one of their friends and they seemed fairly normal but said weird things like that happen when that honors study group hangs out. When I was a freshman, a foreign student had the SWAT team break down his door and confiscate the electronics from his room, including his roommate's stuff. Apparently he was involved in anonymous activities. Pretty intense it. Link for extra information. I was at my buddy's girlfriend's house. She was having an acid party. Basically there were a couple of groups tripping and we all ended up there at the end of the day. My buddy comes back from the bar with 2 girls. He and one of the girls drops. The other girl was too drunk for it to be responsible. Anyways, drunk he was really into my buddy. He goes into the bathroom with the 2 girls to have a more intimate setting. The girl he was tripping with was an old friend and they wanted to have a heart to heart. Anyways, the drunk girl rips down his pants and starts sucking his flaccid D with all her might. His friend just starts laughing and sits down in the bathtub cracking up at the sight. He yells at me, "Hey Kung Pao Chuck, can you come over here?" I walk around the corner and see him leaning on the sink with this nonsense going down. He just points down and says, "We got a bit of a situation here." I start laughing and sit down with the girl in the bathtub to see how it would unfold. My buddy getting his D sucked was tripping too hard to really know what to do until he just gets annoyed and says a few words I'm certain I will never hear again. "Can you just stop sucking my D for 5 minutes please?" Halloween at Asu, Arizona State. Most of the girls' costumes were over the top sexy, but this one chick really outdid herself. To put this in perspective, I saw her in the cafeteria, freshman I'm assuming, casually walking around with her costume on. Her costume was a baseball jersey, no pants, no underwear, complete ass showing as she walked, and yes, she was hot. Saw a girl protesting police brutality in the middle of our main building by getting naked in a Rubbermaid tub filled with bullet shells and watered down mace. Then she scrubbed herself and recited poetry. Edit. Changed Tupperware to Rubbermaid. : I once saw someone underage drinking. Crazy it. My freshman year, after going out to a house party and coming back to our dorm room, me and my good friend end up in some girl's room for an after party. We both hook up with her at different times, me first, and then I proceed to look to my left and see the girl's extremely obese roommate slipping off her bed and slamming onto the floor. She had been drinking whiskey and was fairly new to the drinking game. She was so drunk she was fingering herself while puke was gurgling out of her mouth. Her fat, saggy tit was hanging out of her shirt. Then someone called an ambulance and had her taken away. She later transferred out. Probably from embarrassment considering everyone knew. A postdoctoral researcher at my college tried to kill a colleague with a katana. An honest to god legitimate Japanese katana. The man was apparently into martial arts and had been in dispute with another gentleman over a woman. During the confrontation he shouted something to the effect of "You ruined my life." He didn't succeed in killing his peer before he was subdued by police, but his victim and an officer required hospitalization afterwards. Not my story, but awesome. Ann in college has that guy who graduated like 10 years before but just couldn't give up the life. Big house party early in the year. Lots of freshmen. Cops show. Clear out the house. Line everyone out in the yard for IDs. Said grad runs full bore out the front door with a fire extinguisher over his head. Empties it all around the yard and screams "Ninja." Vanish. Dust clears and all the kids are gone. Cops let him go with a warning because they couldn't stop laughing. My new hero. There was a group of students that attempted to found a religion and declare one of the dorm buildings a sovereign nation. It got far enough that the US military had been contacted with an offer to set up a military base in exchange for beer and their finest of meats and cheeses. They did indeed get a response. It's stories like this that make me really miss college. I was on campus once walking through the park and saw a coyote running at full speed past me. I looked up and see about 10 naked frat guys with sticks and pitchforks running after it, not saying a word. Some girls' fashion choices. It's cold outside. Better wear my Nike shorts and my North Face jacket. This didn't happen at my university, but I saw it. I was sort of seeing this guy who went to college a couple towns over, and we were up late one night Skyping. I should mention that his mic wasn't working, so we were webcamming, but typing. Eventually, we both fell asleep at the computer, and when I woke up he was gone, and there was an all caps message saying, "Gotta go. Hall on fire." I tried calling his cell, but he wasn't picking up, and I called the college, but all the lines were full. His webcam was still on. I watched his dorm burn to the ground from the inside, until his monitor melted. Scariest ducking night of my life. He's fine, but it turns out it was arson. Some ducker filled the elevator shaft all the way up with newspaper, poured gasoline in, and then lit it up. I have nothing to share that's even half as wild as some of the stories here, but the funniest thing happened to me in my first year. I was an abnormal college student living in the dorms, as I would actually typically get to bed before midnight and mostly always got a good night's sleep. One night I woke up and couldn't get back to sleep, so I decided to walk around the building. I pushed a button to get on the elevator, and when the doors opened I found that a whole talk show set had been built inside. There was one guy sitting behind a desk wearing a full suit, and there was one camera guy in the other corner filming. They had a ton of props, including a huge backdrop on the back wall of the elevator and a bunch of set decorations that made it look like the old Late Nights with Conan O'Brien show. Evidently, he did this once a week and would stay up all night in the elevator and would interview whatever guests happened to get on with him. It became really popular by the end of the semester and he ended up having musical guests, stand-up comedians, and all kinds of different acts. This was around 2004 and while it didn't predate YouTube, it predated nice digital video cameras. I still have some of the old files. They're pretty pixely and the sound isn't that great, but if this gets upvoted enough, I'll dig them up and post them to YouTube if anyone wants to see it. Wow. Guess you guys do want to see them. I'll look through my old backup CDs today and see if I can find them. In school I hung out with a good amount of football and basketball players. We were a D3 school so these guys knew they weren't going anywhere. By senior a few of them had started doing steroids and were ducking huge. One night there's a party at a football house, and one of the guys, let's call him Bob, ex-GF shows up with another dude. Bob loses it, but doesn't say anything to the girl or the guy. Instead he goes outside and picks up the lawnmower and throws it through the windshield of the new guy's SUV. He then proceeds to go upstairs to his bedroom, punching a hole in the wall with every step he took. The last few steps the punches went through 2 walls and into his roommate's bedroom. So yeah, he destroyed a windshield and put about 15 holes in his own wall, and a few in his roommate's bedroom's wall. Bob was a bit crazy. Was wandering in the forests behind the dorms with 3 other buddies after a night of heavy drinking and stumbled upon a cow moose and her baby, like 20 feet away down the path. I have never been that scared in my entire life, and never thought I could run that fast through trees and shrubs and branches. Moose are huge and terrifying. Freshman year there was a kid who lived in the dorm next to mine who was pretty quiet and didn't really do too much. He would butt into conversations during the floor meetings trying to be funny, but it was usually painfully awkward. 2 weeks into school I come back to my floor with a group of cops by my door to find out this kid had been leaving notes talking about suicide and killing people around campus. And he was kicked the duck out. Last year we had a Nintendo themed birthday party for a friend. And it was out of control. Multiple people got taken to the hospital for alcohol poisoning. I was about 3 hours into an acid trip when it started to pour rain. And the host, my good friend, decides to bust out a slip and slide. Not too many people joined in until some girl dressed as Princess Peach decides to strip down naked and go for it. TLDR. Freshman neighbor got kicked out for leaving suicide notes and I saw Princess Peach do a naked slip and slide while I was on acid. One time the bookstore gave me $10 for a macroeconomics book. At my first college party my freshman year the cops showed up at the frat house we were at. Everyone started running and scrambling to get away, when one kid somehow managed to get one of his testicles impaled on one of the iron bars on the backyard gate. He screamed and kept running, and after the cops left we found a scrap of his pants and yes, a chunk of his testicle stuck on the tip of the bar. I never found out what happened to that poor kid, but I'm guessing he's not nuts about frat parties. Vichy Riot. Smell of death after a kid living in the room above mine killed himself and wasn't found for 9 days. Dude smashing his head in a running fan for $1. Getting ducking attacked by Romeo and Juliet, swans, and not being able to do anything about it because they were protected by the school. Edit. Lancelot and Elaine. I forgot their names after 7 years of being away from ISU. I witnessed a few people damn near get wrecked by a couch on wheels a couple of years ago on our last class celebration, commonly known around these parts as BSD. There was an event called Couch Races, and one couch went way out of control way too fast and impaled a crowd in such an amusing way. Damn thing is forbidden now. Video. It's pretty funny, and no one was seriously hurt. My BFF frisbeed her baseball hat onto a homeless man at a bar. He liked the hat. Fun times. My buddy, who was a massive offensive lineman who now plays in the NFL, decided to visit the Riots of our dorm floor while hammered one night. Around 3 AM he knocked on his door, pulled his pants down, and started to piss on his door. A few seconds later the Riots opens the door, yells out a frightened WTF Matt. He quickly zipped his it up and booked it down the hall and around the corner where he took shelter in our room. We played Halo for a while until he thought the coast was clear to return to his room. The Ra never turned him. He handled it like a champ and was laughing it off a week later. In my first year a girl was taking part in a wet t-shirt contest in a club. She started to strip off and played with herself for a good 5 minutes. Freshman year, I was walking to the party house district and saw a huge crowd on the road just off the main strip of bars. In the middle of the crowd was a pool of jello with 2 topless chicks wrestling. About 10 seconds after I realized what was happening, the cops showed up. Several hundred people sprinting away while these 2 poor girls struggled to climb out of a kiddie pool in the middle of the road was a sight I will never forget. Senior year, someone had thrown a bunch of mattresses and a sofa away across the street from another party house I attended. A drunk idiot got the idea to light the pile on fire. In the middle of a drought, if you never realized how fast a fire can get out of control, just start an unprotected bonfire on a residential street next to a dead tree. Thankfully the fire department showed up almost immediately, or the blaze would have torn up the yard and most of the block. The tree was almost completely on fire when they showed up and they had to prop it up so the neighbors wouldn't have a flaming elm falling into their kitchen. TL. Dr. Topless wrestling and mattress fire.